I told my brother's fiancée that he's cheating on her. Even though I promised not to say anything. I knew it would cause chaos. But I never imagined the fallout would be this bad. Maybe I should have kept my mouth shut like everyone else seemed to think. But how could I? How could I look her in the eyes? Knowing what I knew, my brother had been lying to his fiancée for over a year. And it was eating me up inside. I had always tried to stay out of people's business. But this was different. She wasn't just anyone. She was family. Or at least she was about to be. My brother, let's call him Jake, has always been a bit of a mess. He was the golden child growing up, charming, popular, and good at talking his way out of trouble. But beneath all that, he never really had his life together. He jumped from job to job, girlfriend to girlfriend, never really committing to anything. When he met his fiancée, Sarah, I thought things were finally going to change. She was grounded, smart, and loved him despite all his flaws. She was patient, more patient than anyone else had ever been with him. And I actually thought they were good for each other. They got engaged 2 years ago. At first, everything seemed perfect. They were planning the wedding. Sarah was excited, and even Jake seemed like he was ready to settle down. But somewhere along the way, things went sideways. I started noticing little things. Jake staying out late, being vague about where he was or who he was with. I chalked it up to cold feet or pre-wedding jitters. I had no idea how deep it really went. I'll never forget the day I found out about the affair. It was a normal Saturday afternoon, and Jake had stopped by my apartment to hang out. We were watching some random show, and he went to grab a beer from the fridge. His phone was sitting on the coffee table, and I wasn't trying to snoop, but it lit up with a message. At first, I didn't think much of it, but then another message popped up. And another. It was a conversation, and the messages were explicit. No doubt about it. My heart sank. I knew right then and there that something was seriously wrong. When Jake came back into the room, I confronted him. I was shaking, but I kept my voice calm. I asked him who the woman was. And without even trying to hide it, he admitted everything. He'd been seeing a coworker for over a year. At first, he tried to downplay it, saying it wasn't serious. Just a fling, something he was going to end. But the more I pressed, the more it became clear that it wasn't going to stop anytime soon. I told him he had to tell Sarah. He couldn't just keep stringing her along like this, planning a wedding while cheating behind her back. He promised me he would. He said he was going to end it with the other woman and that he loved Sarah and didn't want to lose her. I wanted to believe him. I really did. So, I made the mistake of agreeing to keep it quiet, thinking he'd actually fix things. I'm not proud of that. Weeks went by, and nothing changed. Jake was still sneaking around, still lying to Sarah, and I was stuck knowing this terrible secret. Every time I saw Sarah, I felt sick. She was so happy, talking about the wedding, the honeymoon, their future together, and all I could think about was the lie she was living. Then came the family barbecue last weekend. It was supposed to be a fun day. Good food, drinks, and everyone together. But it didn't take long for things to go wrong. I noticed Jake slipping away from the group, and my gut told me something wasn't right. I followed him, and sure enough, there he was on the phone with his coworker. I could hear bits and pieces of the conversation, and it was clear he had no intention of ending things with her. That was it. I couldn't keep quiet anymore. I pulled Jake aside and told him he had until the end of the day to come clean. Or I was going to tell Sarah myself. He begged me not to. Gave me every excuse in the book. But I wasn't having it. I'd had enough of his lies. The next day, I called Sarah. I told her everything. Every painful detail about the affair. She was quiet at first. And then she started crying. I could hear the heartbreak in her voice. And it killed me to be the one to deliver that kind of news. She thanked me for telling her and said she needed some time to process everything. A few hours later, she packed up her stuff and left Jake. She called off the wedding. Just like that. Now, my phone hasn't stopped ringing. My mom called me, furious that I'd interfered. She said it wasn't my place to get involved. That I should have let Jake handle it. Apparently, everyone in my family knew about the affair but didn't want to say anything because they didn't want to cause drama. They thought Jake would eventually come clean on his own. I couldn't believe it. How could they all just stand by and let this happen? Sarah didn't deserve that. Jake, of course, is furious with me. He hasn't spoken to me since Sarah left. He's been telling everyone that I ruined his life. That I should have stayed out of it. My mom is backing him up, saying I've torn the family apart. Even some of my friends have said I should have kept quiet. That it wasn't my responsibility to get involved in someone else's relationship. But I don't see it that way. Sarah deserved to know the truth. She deserved better than to be lied to and cheated on by someone she was about to marry. I couldn't stand by and let her marry Jake, knowing what he was doing behind her back. Maybe I overstepped, but I couldn't live with myself if I had stayed silent. Jake wasn't going to change, no matter how many promises he made. Now, I'm stuck in the middle of this mess. My family is divided. My brother won't talk to me. And I'm left wondering if I made the right call. Was it really my place to say something? Should I have just let it go, like everyone else did? I know I've caused a lot of pain, but I can't shake the feeling that Sarah needed to know the truth. Maybe I'm the asshole for blowing up Jake's life. But honestly, he did that to himself. I just made sure Sarah didn't get caught in the wreckage. Still, I can't help but wonder if I should have handled things differently. Maybe I should have given Jake more time to come clean. Maybe I should have stayed out of it altogether. But deep down, I know I did what I thought was right, even if it cost me my relationship with my brother. Now I just have to live with the fallout.
I told my wife who cheated on me I will only reconcile if she tells everything to our daughter. I've always believed that honesty, even when it's painful, is the bedrock of any meaningful relationship. My wife and I have been together for 20 years, married for 16. We've built a life together, raised our daughter, who's now 15, and weathered the ups and downs that come with long-term relationships. But nothing could have prepared me for what happened last month. It was a regular evening at home when my wife sat me down, looking more serious than I had ever seen her. She confessed to cheating on me during a business trip, just a one-night stand. She said, she was sobbing, apologizing over and over, saying it was a mistake, that she was sorry, and that she would do anything to make things right. The words hit me like a truck. It was like everything I thought I knew about our relationship had suddenly been shattered. I felt like I'd been blindsided. She assured me that it didn't mean anything, that it was a moment of weakness, and that she regretted it instantly. But those words didn't matter to me. What mattered was that trust, the foundation of everything we'd built, was broken. It was hard to look at her the same way, to think of our life and family in the same light. I didn't yell or scream. I didn't know what to say at that moment. I just needed space to breathe, to think. I couldn't even process it fully. She pleaded with me to work through it, said she'd do whatever I asked to fix things. But how do you fix something like this? In the days that followed, the tension in our home was unbearable. We tried to keep things normal for our daughter. But she's smart, too smart, and picked up on everything. She would ask us what was wrong, and we'd brush it off, say we were just going through something. But it was clear she knew something deeper was happening. I went back and forth in my mind, thinking about leaving her, imagining what life would be like if I did. We had been together for 2 decades, she was my partner, my closest friend, the person I trusted with everything. And now I didn't know if I could trust her again. But I also couldn't picture our family broken apart. Our daughter, who loves her mom so much, would be devastated by a separation. And the love I still had for my wife, even through the anger and betrayal, was confusing and overwhelming. Could we rebuild from this? 3 weeks went by like this, my mind spiraling in every direction, trying to figure out what was right. I knew if we were going to reconcile, it couldn't just be me sweeping this under the rug. There had to be consequences. And there had to be full accountability. If she truly wanted to stay in this marriage, she needed to prove it, not just to me but to herself and to our daughter. I came to a decision. If we were going to reconcile, she needed to tell our daughter what happened. It wasn't about punishing my wife or humiliating her. It was about accountability. It was about making sure that our daughter understood that actions have consequences, even in the most important relationships in her life. And it was about my wife being truthful. Not just to me but to our family. I believed that if my wife was truly remorseful and willing to do the hard work of rebuilding trust, she should also face the truth with our daughter, who deserved to know why things in our home had been so tense. When I told my wife this, she was shocked. She hesitated immediately, saying that telling our daughter would damage their relationship and hurt her deeply. She was scared, and I understood that fear. I didn't want to hurt our daughter either. But I also knew that keeping this secret could ultimately do more damage. How could we move forward as a family with this huge lie hanging over us? Our daughter deserved the truth, and my wife needed to show her that honesty, even when it's painful, is the only way to truly fix things. For 2 days, my wife wrestled with the decision. She came to me several times, trying to find a way out of it, asking if we could move on without dragging our daughter into it. But I was firm. If she wanted to reconcile, this was non-negotiable. Finally, she agreed. It was one of the hardest moments I've ever had to witness. My wife sat down with our daughter and told her everything. She didn't sugarcoat it, didn't make excuses. She explained that she had made a terrible mistake, and that it had hurt me deeply. Our daughter was quiet, and I could see the confusion and hurt on her face. She asked a few questions, but mostly just listened. I could tell she was trying to process it all, and it was hard to watch the pain cross her face. Afterward, our daughter didn't say much. She went to her room, and things have been a bit awkward between her and my wife since then. She's still close with her mom, but there's a noticeable difference in the way they interact. She's more reserved, maybe a little distant. I think she's still trying to figure out how to feel about it all. And I can't blame her. It's a lot for a 15-year-old to take in. As for my wife and me, we're trying. She's doing everything she can to show that she's committed to making things right. She's following through on all the steps we discussed: therapy, open communication, full transparency. But it's still hard. The trust isn't there yet, and I'm not sure when it will be, or if it ever will. I'm trying to take it day by day, but there are moments when the anger and hurt bubble up and I wonder if I made the right choice in staying. My wife feels guilty. I can tell. She's still scared that this will ruin her relationship with our daughter. But I'm not so sure. Our daughter is strong, and I believe she'll come to understand why I asked her mom to tell her the truth. In the long run, I hope this will show her that even when we make mistakes, it's how we handle them afterward that matters. That honesty, no matter how painful, is what holds relationships together. The road ahead is uncertain. Rebuilding our marriage is going to take time, and I'm still not sure where we'll end up. But I do know that if we make it through this, it'll be because we chose to face the truth head on. No matter how hard it was, I'm trying to hold on to that hope as we move forward, one step at a time.